In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the front brake hose on this Ram 2500. Connect your brake line to your front caliper, so let's get started. Let's remove the wheel. Use a 21mm socket and remove all 8 of your lug nuts. Now remove the wheel. With the wheel off, you can see the brake hose going from the brake line back there all the way down to the caliper. Now on this old brake hose, what I'm going to actually do is pinch it off with some pliers, and then when I take it off of here, some fluid will drain, but it will not keep dripping as I replace the other end of the line. And as soon as I disconnect this, I'm actually going to put the new brake hose on. That way, all I have to do later is just quickly swap it over here and lose the least amount of brake fluid. I have some pliers that are purposely made for this application, but if you don't, you can use some locking pliers and just pinch the brake hose. Now I'm pinching the old one. I do not want to pinch the new brake hose. You do risk damaging it if you crush it with pliers.
Remove the ABS wire off of the retainers on the brake hose. With a 15mm socket, remove the banjo bolt to remove the line off the caliper. Have a collection bucket underneath because fluid will drain even though we pinched off the brake hose. Okay, take the bolt out with the washers. Take that line off. Inspect the banjo bolt to make sure it's in good condition. Put a new copper washer on it and slide it through the line just like that. Then put another new copper washer on the other side. Slide it over the caliper, just like this, with the line going up, and start bottoming it out. Okay, once you have it bottomed out, give it a quick snug so it can stop leaking, and now we'll torque it to 20 foot-pounds. Clean everything off with brake parts cleaner. Following the brake hose, you'll see where it connects onto the line. We're going to need a flare nut wrench to remove this fitting in here. Now, if this doesn't want to spin freely, meaning not with the line, then you're going to have to remove the hose and twist that off of the fitting. If you spin the fitting with the line too many times, it'll actually break the line, and you of course want to avoid that because then you'd be making a new brake line. I sprayed rust penetrant all over it, hoping that would help. So let's try to break this free. Oh, that broke free. Perfect. This is spinning by itself without the line. I'm just going to work it back and forth a couple times to loosen it up, but this is what you want to see. Now keep in mind, brake fluid will start leaking as soon as we disconnect this, so make sure you have that collection bucket catching it and the new hose ready to go. Once you break it free, you can switch over to a regular open-ended wrench. It's going to make things a lot easier. Okay, so this is now removed. Let's quickly pull this clip off of here. Use a pry bar and pry it off. This is what locks the brake hose onto this bracket. Pull the brake hose up. Quite a bit of fluid is leaking, so I'm going to work quickly now. Wipe off any debris that might be here and bring in the new brake hose. Let's start threading it on to this fitting. This is going nice and smooth. If yours was very difficult to thread on, that means it's cross-threading and you want to immediately stop and correct that. Otherwise you'll ruin the threads and you'll need a new fitting. All right, that's bottomed out. I'm going to switch over to my other wrench. Now this hose here has to be clocked just right in order to fit inside the retainer. There we go. So once it does fit in, that's going to hold it in place and it'll be locked in. Give it about 1/8 of a turn, at most 1/4 after this bottoms out. And now let's pull this down in position just like that so we can install that clip to lock in the brake line. Tap it in. Once that's bottomed out, that's locked in. I'm going to spray this area with brake parts cleaner to get rid of the old brake fluid, not only because I don't want it dripping everywhere, but I need to find out if there is a potential leak, and I won't know that unless I clean it first. On the caliper side, let's get that collection bucket underneath it, and with a 10mm wrench or socket, break free the bleeder screw. Typically they have a cap, mine is missing, but this will allow gravity to pull the fluid into the caliper and out through the bleeder screw, but also air, because the line is full of air at this point, and we're going to have to wait for a steady trickle of fluid. Now, this steady trickle of fluid might still be the fluid left in the caliper, so we're going to give this a minute and make sure we have no air bubbles. The gravity bleed should take care of the air that's in this line. However, if you need to bleed it more afterwards because you think there's air stuck in the system and you're unhappy with how the pedal feels, do a full manual brake bleed, which you'll see how to do at the end of the video. For me, I'm not getting any more air and clean brake fluid is coming through, so I'm going to close this off and call it done. There we go. I'm going to spray this area with brake parts cleaner. Let's clip the ABS sensor back into these retainers. One over here and one back here. Now let's get the wheel on. Install all 8 lug nuts, bottom them out in a cross pattern, and also in a cross pattern we're going to torque these front wheels to 135 foot-pounds. Once again, 135 foot-pounds in a cross pattern. Double check it. Now pump up the brakes and take it for a road test. On the driver's side towards the firewall, you'll find the master cylinder reservoir. Let's remove that cap and remove the fluid that's in it. Typically, it says on the cap what type of brake fluid this takes. However, in our case, it says it right on the reservoir. Back here, this system takes .3 brake fluid. You want to make sure you have plenty on hand because this system takes quite a bit of brake fluid, so be prepared. Use whatever you have that'll remove this old fluid. I'm using a vacuum pump, but you can use a fluid transfer pump or a manual fluid extraction pump. Whatever you have that'll get the fluid out of here. Now top off the master cylinder with some .3 brake fluid. I'm going to bring it all the way up to the max line, so fill it up. Reinstall the cap. That way debris and moisture don't get in. The bleeding sequence on this truck starts at the right rear wheel, goes over to the left rear. Then you should top off the master cylinder after doing the 2 rears. You move on to the right front. That's the passenger side in the front. And then last caliper in this sequence is going to be the left front, the driver's side. Now it is recommended that you repeat the sequence twice, so top off the master cylinder and go around again. I have an assistant in the vehicle ready to pump up the brake pedal. They're going to pump a few times and then hold pressure. Then I'm going to crack the bleeder open. Before I do that, I'm going to remove this cap, and I have a little hose that I'm going to attach to it. That way I direct the brake fluid right into my collection receptacle. I'm going to use a 10mm wrench to break the bleeder screw free. They're holding pressure, and here we go. All right, go again.
Holding.
Okay, they're holding again, so I'm going to crack this open. And as soon as it reaches the floor, I'm going to close this and go ahead and pump again.
Holding.
Okay, they're holding. I'm going to open this up. I'm not seeing any air bubbles. Let's do it one more time just to be safe. The fluid is also getting clearer, which means there's new brake fluid coming in from the master cylinder. You want to do this until you either have nice clean fluid or you see no more air bubbles, or both.
Holding. close this off. You can let go now. I'm going to remove my hose. There we go. If you spilt any, go ahead and clean all this up. Use brake parts cleaner. And of course, once it's all dried up, you want to cap the bleeder screw off if you have the cap still. That way it doesn't get clogged up with debris. At this point, you're going to move over to the left rear, do the same procedure over there, and then of course top off that master cylinder to make sure it stays full. I topped off my master cylinder and I am now at the right front caliper. This is going to be our third one in our sequence. So same thing, assistance in the vehicle, ready to pump up the brake pedal. I'm going to stick my hose on here so I don't make a mess. And with a 10mm wrench, I'm going to break this free when the time comes. All right, they're holding pressure, so crack this open. Perfect. Okay, go again.
Hold it.
Okay, they're holding, crack this open. Let the pedal go down. All right, pump again.
Hold it.
Okay. All right. It's looking better. Let's do this one last time. Go ahead and pump.
Hold it.
Okay, crack this open. All right, this is all clean, fresh fluid, no air bubbles. You can let go of the brake pedal now. Use some brake parts cleaner and clean off anything that leaked. And unfortunately, this caliper did not have a little rubber plug for the bleeder screw, but if yours did, go ahead and put it back. Now move over to the left front and do the same steps. Now top off the master cylinder one last time. If you think you need to repeat the process, go ahead and bleed again in the same sequence until you're happy with how the brake pedal feels and you have no air in the system. Once you're done, put the wheels on. The front wheels get torqued to 135 foot-pounds and the rears get torqued to 150 foot-pounds.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.